What's going on, guys? So I'm sitting here in my sunroom editing up the last video I shot. So I actually did a super long video on my dad's Suburban on how to replace a ball joint, but I ended up having to replace an axle and doing all kinds of other stuff to it while I had it apart, and I had over 2 hours of footage that I filmed for that project. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually breaking it up into a 3-part series. So if you guys click this video, it's either part 1 for you in order to show you how to change a ball joint or get to the axle, or you clicked on this video just to see how to replace a hub assembly on your Suburban. So if you do start the video about halfway through of the disassembly, there's gonna be a part where I click on to part 2 so that you can continue the video. Keep watching disassembly farther into the truck. If you do just want to watch this video all the way through, it's going to show you how to remove your hub assembly and replace it and put the truck back together. So I hope you guys are enjoying all the videos we've been putting out. The channel is starting to grow, which is awesome. And if you guys do like the video, please hit the like button. It does help spread all these videos around so more people will be able to watch them and get help with their vehicles and lawnmowers and anything with a motor on it, basically. But with that, I appreciate you guys clicking on the video. Hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you. And if it does, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, so getting on into the video, I decided I was just going to do a voiceover of pretty much the whole installation on all the videos, just because it's kind of hard for me to hold the camera, talk, and do all the work that I needed to do in order to get the job done. So obviously the first thing you need to do is go ahead and jack it up, get it on some jack stands, and start removing the wheels. So you'll see that I showed removing the left side wheel, but I actually work on the right side of the truck through the entire video. And that was just because the right side ball joint was actually the worst of the 2 ball joints. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna have enough time to complete both sides in one day. So right here, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is take a screwdriver or a C-clamp, and you just tighten up the brake caliper so that it takes the pressure off of the pad so you can remove it. The next step you want to do is remove the 2 bolts on the back of the brake caliper that's going to remove the caliper bracket and the caliper itself with the brake pads and everything inside of it. So what you saw me do there was break them loose. Then I pulled out my Milwaukee electric ratchet, jumped on them with that, and that thing is definitely a lifesaver. All of my tools, all of my electric tools are Milwaukee. I love them. If you are interested in looking at any of those, I do have links in the description for all of those products as well. But of course, it's not sponsored. I wish it was. Come on, Milwaukee. But you can see right there, remove the brake caliper. Always hang it up by something. Don't let it dangle by the brake line. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is unbolt the axle nut, pull the washer off, and then you're ready to start disassembling the hub assembly itself. So right here on the top is your speed sensor. So that speed sensor runs through the brake rotor guard there, the shield on the back of the steering knuckle. So you just pop that thing out. There is an O-ring on it, so be really careful as you try to remove it. Don't break the tab where you screw it down into the hub assembly. But on the back of the steering knuckle, there is 3 bolts that go through, so it's just in the shape of a triangle. Most hub assemblies are the same style. They all look almost the exact same. They're a triangle on the back that mounts on the steering knuckle. Then you've got your bearing and the stud sticking off of the front of it. So all you have to do is just remove those 3 bolts on the back. It's not completely pressed in. You can hit it with a hammer to get it out, but you just have to work back and forth. It'll eventually break loose, and you'll be able to take it off. So I'm going to let this play out a little bit until these bolts come out, and then I'll start telling you what's going on. All right, so here we go with the BFH. If you don't know what that is, you could probably Google it. But just get you a big sledgehammer or something. If you don't have a big hammer, it will take you a while to beat this thing loose. They are tight, but like I say, you don't need a press to actually get them off. The other way you could do it is take a 3-jaw puller and put it on the end of the axle and actually pull it off. there's sort of two ways to look at it. I'd never really felt super comfortable doing that because of how much pressure you can push against the axle. There's possibility that it could mess the axle up, but there's also the argument that hitting the hub assembly with the hammer could mess it up. But my thought on that is, if that hub assembly is strong enough to carry the weight of the entire vehicle while it's rolling and the load side to side, I really don't feel like hitting it with a hammer is actually hurting it. But once you get the hub assembly off, it's pretty straightforward going back together. Make sure you take a rag with some brake cleaner or a wire brush if it's really rusty. Get in there and clean up that groove really good, because if you try to put a new hub assembly onto that rusted steering knuckle, it's not going to sit flat like it should, and it could throw your alignment out of whack just a little bit from the hub assembly not being completely flush. So now going back together with it, make sure you put on that heat shield. So you can see a little tab right on the front of that shield. That's how you know you have it on the right direction, because it actually shields the outer tie rod from heat, so that when you hit the brakes, as it heats up and cools down, it doesn't actually destroy that tie rod in. So that's actually what that little tab's for. But go ahead and put all three of the bolts back in. Go ahead and get them snug. And then once you do that, you can continue the reassembly process for the brakes and get the rest of it put back together. So right here you can see I'm taking that ratchet and go ahead and getting them snug. So on bolts like this, anything that has to be really, really tight, I always hit them with the electric ratchet and then go back behind with my breaker bar in order to make sure that I've got everything completely tight. You know, electric tools are awesome and it does make your job a lot quicker, but for breaking stuff loose and finalizing, doing the last little bit of tightening down, I prefer to use manual tools. That way I know that my hands felt that bolt getting tight. So if you give it back to a customer or give it back to a family member, you know that they're going to be safe because you weren't relying on an electric tool possibly failing and you not even realizing it. So go ahead and get those things cranked down really tight. You don't have to put Loctite on them. Some people do. If you want to run a Beta Blue Loctite, that's not going to hurt anything. But I've never had any trouble with them coming loose. So right here, the last step is just, well, before you put the brake rotor on, make sure that you reattach your wheel speed sensor. I didn't have that filmed for some reason, but that has to be attached before you put the rotor back on. When you do put the rotor on, just hold it with your hand, put the caliper back up, and put those two bolts back in the back. In the same way, I hit it with the electric ratchet, and then you'll see me here in a second tighten it down with the manual ratchet, just to make sure that I've got it good and tight before I give it back. So what you're going to see me do right here is a little trick of the trade that I learned while I was in the shop. So you can actually put a screwdriver through your rotor, and whenever you go to tighten it down, it'll hold that axle from spinning. So you can do that to loosen the axle nut as well if you don't have an electric impact gun like I had. But this way makes it super easy, you know it's tight, and then you can really get a good torque on it. So these hub assemblies do have a torque spec. Most of them are around 185 to 250 foot-pounds. They take a lot of torque, and I don't have a torque wrench that goes that high at the house, but it really doesn't matter on these things as long as you get up and crank them down. You can see I'm putting all of my weight on that thing, so you know it's getting torqued down a lot. But right here, what I'm showing is just me putting the bracket that holds the brake line back together. And other than that, this job is complete. Alright, so there you have it. So that is video number 1. That is how to replace your hub assembly. So if you did come just for the hub assembly, I hope it helped you out. Like I say, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button because it really helps the channel get out there so more people can watch this video. But of course, when you finish that part of the job, go ahead and put the wheel back on. Make sure you torque it properly because that's the last thing you want is a wheel falling off while you're going down the road. But once you get all that done, you should have your truck lined up. Anytime you mess with any steering components like that, go ahead and have your truck. Just have them check the alignment. It probably won't throw it off just doing a hub assembly, but you never know. I mean, if it's out, it's always a good thing to check just to make sure that your tires are wearing good and you're not wasting money on replacing tires or having somebody doing alignment for no reason later on down the road. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I also have a list of tools and list of parts down in the description below so you can get to all that stuff easier. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.